Sometimes you just need a burst of speed, and that's where rocket boosters come in. Some of the planes on this list have RATO systems, rocket assisted takeoff, which discard themselves once the fuel is used up. Other planes have rocket motors that are built into the airframe and can be turned on or off when needed. Let's start with Germany, which has the most rocket boosted planes in War Thunder. The Arado 234B2 is a jet bomber that has two RATO boosters, which burn for 28 seconds. They are able to push the Arado with the smallest bomb load I could equip from 0 to 126 kilometers per hour. This is my way of showing you how much force the booster can output, but do keep in mind the weight of the plane is a factor too. An interesting tidbit is that if you look closely at the front of the booster, you can see a parachute. In real life, this helped the pods have a more controlled fallback to Earth, so they could be reused. Next, the Messerschmitt 264. It's a heavy bomber that has 6 boosters. These boosters burn for 34 seconds. They appear to have the same system as on the last vehicle, but for some reason they burn a few seconds longer. They are able to push the 264 from 0 to 67 km per hour. Even though this system is to assist with takeoff, you can be cheeky and hold onto it until you need a boost of speed. Next, the Messerschmitt 262 C1A. It's a jet fighter that has a single rocket motor in the tail section. It's an experimental modification of the Me-262. The C1A has a very long burn time of 2 minutes and 51 seconds. Not very scientific, but I was able to climb to almost 2,000 meters high by using only the rocket motor. Because this is a rocket motor, you can also turn this system on or off when needed. It's using the same engine as the Messerschmitt 163 and the infamous Bachem 349. Gaijin, please add the natter to War Thunder. Come on, it will be funny. Unfortunately, while the speed boost is very welcome, it comes at the cost of reduced fuel endurance. The Me-262A1, which is as standard as it gets for 262, can fly for 53 minutes. Our C1A can only fly for 22 minutes on its jets. Also, the weight of the airframe has gone up. Next, the Messerschmitt 262 C2B. It's another Me-262 variant, but this time has 2 boosters, one built into each engine. You can see the new engine housing makes it easy to tell the difference between the C2B from the C1A. The booster has a very long burn time of 2 minutes and 43 seconds. I was able to climb to 4,000 meters high by just using rocket power. The rocket motor can also be turned on or off. This plane has an even lower fuel endurance than the C1A at 20 minutes, although the airframe is a little bit lighter than the C1A. Next, we move to America for the Douglas A4B Skyhawk. It's a jet fighter that has 2 small but very powerful boosters that burn quickly for only 5 seconds. They can push the jet from 0 to 120 km per hour. The A4B is surprisingly light, at only 4,540 kilograms with no fuel. Next, we have a variant of the Skyhawk, the A4E. Same booster as the last Skyhawk, which burns for 5 seconds. The A4E Early has a slightly more powerful engine, but weighs a little bit more. Also, it now has a more pointy nose. You get boosted from 0 to 117 km per hour. There are also the Israeli A4s, which all have RATO. There is the A4E Early M, the A4H, and the A4N. Onwards next to the land of the rising sun, with the Japanese Natazima Kika, a jet fighter that has 2 boosters slung underneath. They give a very quick burn of 6 seconds. They are able to push the Kika from 0 to 76 km per hour. Unlike all the other planes on this list, this plane has a downside. The boosters are blocking where the landing gear retracts into. So unless you want to fly around with your landing gear hanging out, it's best to use your boosters the way it was intended for most of these RATO planes. Or perhaps you could be Giga Brain and snap the landing gear off to reduce drag and retain the booster for when you may need it. On the historical side, it's interesting how Japan built a copy of sorts of the Me-262 without proper design documents. The result is a slightly smaller, lighter jet plane, but with a less clean airframe. The engines are also an attempted copy of the Me-262's engines from pictures and a cutaway drawing. Next, the USSR and the Tupolev 14T. It's a jet bomber that comes with 4 boosters that burn for 12 seconds. They are able to push the Tu-14T from 0 to 137 kilometers per hour. Next, the Ilyusha 28. It's a jet bomber that is also available in the German, Chinese, and even the Italian tech tree. The IL-28 has 2 boosters, giving it a 12-second burn. They are able to push the IL-28 from 0 to 66 km per hour. It's interesting how the boosters are positioned in an almost diagonal angle instead of pointing just straight backwards. Next, the Ilyusha 28SH. It's a slightly heavier modification of the IL-28, with the weight going from 13,170 kilograms to 13,471 kilograms. One of the modifications is the addition of hardpoints for mounting under the wing rocket pylons. Same booster as the IL-28 with the same burn time of 12 seconds. Same booster as the IL-28 with a burn time of 12 seconds. Somehow I was able to go from 0 to 69 km per hour, so this may suggest a slight error in the methodology of my testing. Next to France and the Mirage 3C. It's a jet fighter that has a single booster in the fuselage. Long burn time of 1 minute and 50 seconds. I was just about able to climb to 200 meters by using only the booster. Also, this booster can be turned on or off. The Mirage is unique in War Thunder, as it's the only vehicle so far where you can choose to bring the booster. If you do wish to bring the booster, you have to sacrifice the internal gun. Next, we have another variant of the Mirage 3E. It's similar to the Mirage 3C, but I found out the hard way it's heavier. I wasn't able to take off using rocket power anymore. The Mirage 3C weighs 6,340 kilograms, whereas the Mirage 3E weighs 7,360 kilograms. Top speed I was able to get before encountering issues was 275 kilometers per hour. Since we've been talking about rocket boosters, we may as well talk about rocket-powered planes. Let's start with the Germans again, and the Messerschmitt Me-163B, also known as the Comet. It's a rocket-powered fighter. It's armed with 2 30mm cannons and has a fuel endurance of 6 minutes and 20 seconds. In game, it has a climb rate of 37 meters per second. Next, we have a variant of the 163, the Messerschmitt 163B0. Similar to the 163B, but it has 2 20mm cannons and can now carry 2 20mm gun pods. Next, we have the Soviets with the BI rocket fighter. It's armed with 2 20mm cannons and has a fuel endurance of 2 minutes. That might not sound like much time, but oh boy are those 2 minutes amazing, as you have the best climb rate of any vehicle at its rank at 100 meters per second. Also, it can rip its own wings off in level flight at 100% throttle near sea level. Next, we go back to the land of the rising sun with the Mitsubishi Ki-200, also known as Sushi, not to be confused with the food. It's a rocket-powered fighter armed with 2 30mm cannons and has a fuel endurance of 5 minutes and 45 seconds. Climb rate is 47.4 meters per second. Japan intended to build a licensed copy of the Me-163, but due to the shaky war situation, 2 submarines carrying disassembled 163s were sunk on their way to Japan. So Japan engineered the Ki-200 from a training manual and other limited documentation of the Me-163. These rocket planes were veritable death traps on account of their volatile fuel. They were intended for use as high-altitude interceptors. With their small fuel tanks but powerful engines, they could soar from an airfield to intercept bombers at high altitude within a few minutes. At high speed, they would swoop through an enemy bomber formation wreaking havoc. They have no intention of dogfighting, just hit the big heavies and get out. With their remaining dregs of fuel, they will return to an airfield. The Me-163 and Ki-200 forego conventional landing gear and go with landing skids for the sake of weight reduction. Their landings were rather interesting. In game, when flying one of these planes, to handle the very limited amount of fuel at your disposal, good throttle management is important. The engine can be run at around 30% when cruising so as not to drain the fuel too fast. That's more than enough output for level flight. One final bonus for this video. This vehicle isn't rocket powered, but I like the engineering solution to increase thrust. The Italian Sagittero 2 has an alternate version, the Ariete. To increase thrust, it has an additional engine added to the tail. The main engine makes 1,540 kilograms of force, and the mini engine in the tail outputs 760 kilograms of force. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see more like this, may I recommend every weird rocket mechanism in War Thunder. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.